Hello everyone, welcome to my review of Season 3, Episode 4 of Gotham, titled Mad City, New Day Rising. Before I go further, I just want to warn everyone there will be spoilers in this review. This episode starts off right where the last one ended. It seems like the structure of two-part episode story arcs are going to continue further. And in this episode, we get the wrap-up of the Mad Hatter storyline. But what we learn is that the Mad Hatter is a very dark, very sinister, very creepy villain. And I have to say, Gotham is doing its villains like that a lot. And that's because a lot of these villains are very dark and are very serious. So I kind of give the show credit for sticking with those villain roots as much as they can. We learn that Alice's blood has a different effect on different people when they come in contact with it. We saw in the last episode it set someone on fire, and at the end of this episode we saw it come in contact with Captain Barnes, so that's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the next episode as a result of that. The hypnosis that the Mad Hatter used on Jim Gordon is still affecting him in this episode. He still has a trigger, the trigger being a clock ticking. It triggers a sense of suicide in him, and that he is immediately put in a trance to where he wants to commit suicide. It is doing that because it is feeding off of a lot of anger and a lot of fear within him. And a lot of that anger and fear is to do with his relationship with Lee Tompkins, who was now back in Gotham City, if you remember from last episode. In this episode, we get another kind of reunion scene between the two, where there is still a lot of unsaid emotion and still a lot of unsaid feelings between the two. And in this episode, we get a lot of that coming out. Jim has to tell her that he is happy for her because he must know that being with him was not easy, specifically how it ended between the two. And she also kind of still cares for Jim because he was a very important part of her life. In the episode, we get even further confirmation of Bullock's loyalty to Jim. He's willing to break the law, break protocol, go behind Captain Barnes' back in order to help his friend. One of the most interesting aspects of the episode was the Penguin plot with him becoming the mayor. I personally thought that this would have been developed more, perhaps drawn out over a series of episodes, and then we would have gotten the election results, but they wasted absolutely no time in wrapping up that storyline and now moving forward. Also, the Penguin's relationship with the Riddler, or Edward Nygma, played a huge role in him becoming mayor. He has made him his chief of staff. It's very kind of weird and crazy to me that these two former criminals and inmates at Arkham, for the lack of a better term, are now mayor and chief of staff of Gotham City. This city is crazy. Also, with that election and with that relationship between the Penguin and Edward Nygma, Butch is kind of cast aside. So it's going to be interesting to see how he reacts to this new news, because as we saw in the episode, Butch has a lot of sway in the crime community in Gotham. So could we see kind of a mutiny or insurrection with Butch later on in the season? The climax of the episode kind of wrapped up very quickly, almost too quickly for me. We did get to see Jim overcome his hypnotic effects, but the confrontation between Jervis Tetch and Jim wrapped up very quickly when Alice died, and I kind of really felt bad for that character, and I also kind of wanted to see her more in the show. I must talk about the Bruce clone. In the previous 3 episodes, I thought that perhaps the Bruce clone was Clayface, but now, with the reveal at the end of this episode with that woman who is the head of the Court of Owls kidnapping him essentially, I'm starting to believe that he is one of the Talons, and it's very interesting that they chose to, I guess, clone Bruce Wayne to be one of the Talons. Could this mean that they want to kill Bruce Wayne and replace him with their own version of Bruce Wayne? Or could this lead to a physical confrontation with the clone of Bruce Wayne and the real Bruce Wayne that we know? Because as we have seen in the show, Alfred is training him in combat. Seeing the Tweedles in the episode was a nice nod to the comic book, where in the comic book there are two Tweedles, these kind of muscle guys that are always in the employ of the Mad Hatter. So that was a nice kind of comic book reference in this episode. I must also mention that the security at the GCPD is really, really bad. They always seem to be able to get attacked no matter how many police officers they have in there. I don't know what their security system is in terms of being able to access the building, but it is not very good because there have been several occasions where the GCPD has been attacked. I think they're really hinting at Jim Gordon is eventually going to return to the GCPD. Obviously, in the big scheme of things, he has to return to the GCPD eventually because, as we know, later on he will eventually become Commissioner Gordon. No matter how much bounty hunting or PI work he does or vigilante work he does, he always ends up back at the GCPD one way or another. Whether it's to deliver these bounties to get a paycheck or to do some investigative work or to talk with Harvey Bullock. Overall, it was a decent episode. This has been my review of Season 3, Episode 2 of Gotham, titled Mad City, New Day Rising. If you like this review, please check out my other reviews of the superhero television series of Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.